The first thing he noticed was that the floor didn't trust him. It hummed under his boots like it was considering options, and for a brief, deeply personal moment, he considered apologizing to it. Look, he muttered under his breath, I didn't mean to arrive illegally, it just sort of happened. The floor did not forgive him. It tilted half a degree, just enough to make him stumble into a wall that pulsed faintly with light as if amused. He pushed himself upright, brushing imaginary dust from his jacket. Great, judged by architecture already, fantastic start. The corridor stretched in both directions, impossibly clean, like no one had ever dared to make a mess here. He took a cautious step forward, then another, testing the way gravity seemed to shift like a board operator flipping switches. Okay, he whispered, you and I are not going to be friends. The corridor responded by stabilizing for exactly 2 seconds, then dipping again. He raised a finger. That was sarcasm, by the way. A sound echoed behind him, sharp, precise, and very much not architectural. He turned slowly, already knowing that whatever was there would not be pleased to see him. 3 figures approached, their movements synchronized in a way that made his skin crawl. Their armor reflected the faint glow of the walls, turning them into walking mirrors of judgment. Hi, he said, lifting a hand. Before we escalate this into something awkward, I just want to clarify that I am definitely supposed to be here. Somewhere, probably not this exact hallway, but statistically speaking. One of them raised a weapon. He stopped talking. Right, nonverbal crowd, I respect that. They surrounded him with quiet efficiency, and he briefly considered running before remembering that the floor already hated him. Okay, he said, exhaling. Plan B, compliance with a strong undertone of charm. He offered what he hoped was a reassuring smile. It did not land. They didn't touch him, didn't need to. The air itself tightened like invisible hands guiding him forward. He walked because not walking felt like a worse idea. You know, he continued, because silence made him nervous, in my experience, this is usually the part where someone explains the rules. Maybe gives me a pamphlet. I'm a big fan of pamphlets, very underrated. No one responded. He nodded to himself. Okay, we'll circle back to pamphlets later. They led him into a chamber that felt important. Not because of size, but because everything inside it seemed arranged with deliberate intention. He took one step in and immediately felt it, that shift, subtle but undeniable, like the room itself had just become aware of him. And then she was there. He didn't see her enter. 1 second the space was empty, the next it was. She stood at the far end, still as a held breath. At first glance, she looked human, almost painfully so, like someone had studied humanity and decided to replicate it with unsettling accuracy. But then his eyes caught the difference, the long ears, elegant and sharp, curving back in a way that made the air around them seem thinner, as if even space gave them room. He blinked. Okay, he said softly, mostly to himself. That's new. She watched him, her gaze steady, unhurried, like she had all the time in the universe and expected him to justify existing within it. The silence stretched, and for once he didn't immediately fill it. You are not authorized to be here, she said finally. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried through him like a precise vibration, as if each word had been engineered for maximum effect. He nodded slowly. That's fair. In my defense, I'm not entirely sure where here is, so authorization felt like a stretch. A pause, not confusion, not yet, just a slight recalibration. You are human, she continued. Allegedly, he replied. There's still some debate. One of the armored figures shifted, and he felt the air tighten again, a warning this time. He raised both hands. I'm kidding, I'm very human, regrettably. Her gaze didn't waver. If anything, it sharpened. You will kneel? He looked down at the floor, then back at her. I just met this floor, he said. It and I are not on good terms. I feel like kneeling would send the wrong message. The air grew heavier. The kind of heavy that suggested consequences. He felt it press against his shoulders, urging him down, insisting. He stayed upright, not because he was brave, not entirely. Mostly because something about the way she said it, like it had never not worked, made him stubborn. I don't think that's going to happen, he said, quieter now. For the first time, something shifted in her expression, not anger, not surprise. Just the faintest fracture in certainty, like a system encountering unexpected input. You misunderstand your position, she said. Probably, he agreed. I misunderstand a lot of things, gravity, for example. Your hallway and I had a disagreement earlier. A flicker so small he almost missed it passed through her gaze, not amusement, something adjacent to it but quickly suppressed. You are inferior, she stated. He considered that, tilting his head slightly. I mean, statistically, sure, you've got the whole commanding presence thing. I've got a history of tripping over furniture. It's not a fair competition. The pressure increased, sharper now, more focused. He felt it push against his knees, trying to force them to bend. He exhaled slowly, steadying himself. But here's the thing, he added, meeting her eyes. Inferior doesn't mean silent. The room seemed to hold its breath. She stepped forward. The movement was smooth, deliberate, closing the distance between them without any wasted motion. Up close, the differences became clearer, the precision of her features, the way her ears angled slightly as if tracking something beyond sound. You should be begging for mercy, she said. The words settled between them, heavy with expectation. He looked at her for a long moment, then sighed softly. See, that feels like a script, he said. A good one, don't get me wrong. Very dramatic, but I don't think I'm your audience. The pressure spiked. Pain flared along his spine, sharp enough to make his vision blur for a second. He inhaled through it, forcing himself to stay upright. Still not kneeling, he managed. Silence. Not empty this time. Charged, unstable. She was closer now. Close enough that he could see the subtle tension in her posture, the way her control wasn't slipping but adjusting. Why? She asked. The question was quiet, not a command, something else. He blinked, caught off guard. Why what? Why do you resist? He opened his mouth, then paused, considering. Honestly, he said, because you expect me to. Another pause. Longer this time? Something in the room shifted again, but not in a way he could name. He smiled, faint but genuine. Also, he added, I'm terrible at following orders. It's kind of my defining trait. For a fraction of a second, the pressure eased. Not gone, just less. And in that brief, impossible moment, he realized something that made absolutely no sense at all. She hadn't decided what to do with him yet. He expected a cell. Something dramatic, preferably with glowing bars and a low, ominous hum. What he got instead was a room that looked like it had been designed by someone who didn't believe in discomfort. Smooth walls, a surface that might have been a bed if he trusted it enough to sit, and a hovering panel that blinked at him like it was waiting for applause. He pointed at it. I don't know what you do, he said, but I respect your confidence. The panel blinked again. He nodded. Good talk. The door didn't open so much as it stopped being a door. Two of the armored figures from earlier stood there, silent as ever. He raised a hand. Ah, my favorite conversationalists. I assume this is the part where you either interrogate me or escort me somewhere worse. They chose option 3. Silent escort to somewhere equally unclear. He walked between them, glancing sideways. You know, back home when someone doesn't talk, we usually assume they're judging us. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume you both think I'm doing great. No response. Confidence boost, he murmured. They brought him back to the same chamber. The floor behaved this time, which felt suspicious. Oh, now you're cooperative, he said under his breath. Where was this attitude earlier? She was already there, of course she was. He stopped a few steps in, then tilted his head slightly. You know, he said, I'm starting to think you don't actually leave this room. Her gaze settled on him, calm and precise. You were not dismissed. Right, he said. I'll make a note to request dismissal next time I accidentally trespass into a high-security alien facility. The air didn't tighten this time. That was new. He noticed it immediately and decided not to comment on it because pointing out progress felt like a good way to undo it. You will answer, she said. I usually do, he replied, sometimes even correctly. A pause, then, your purpose. He spread his hands slightly. That's a big question, philosophically or situationally. Why are you here? Ah. Situational, much easier. He took a breath. Short version, I was on a ship that was not supposed to be here, doing a job I was definitely not qualified for, and then something went wrong in a very impressive way. What went wrong? He considered that. Do you want the technical explanation or the honest one? Her eyes didn't leave him. Both. Technical, a miscalibrated jump drive intersected with a gravitational anomaly. He paused. Honest. Someone pressed a button they shouldn't have. It might have been me. Silence. He winced slightly. In my defense, it was a very tempting button. It practically asked to be pressed. One of the armored figures shifted again, but she didn't react. Not outwardly. You caused your own displacement, she said. Caused feels like a strong word, he replied. I prefer contributed enthusiastically. Her gaze narrowed just a fraction. Your species is inefficient. He nodded. Oh, absolutely, we're wildly inefficient, but we make up for it with persistence and snacks. Snacks? Yes, he said more seriously than the topic deserved. Small, consumable morale boosters critical for survival. Her head tilted slightly. The movement was subtle, but it was there. Your survival has been inconsistent. Historically, yes, he admitted. Individually, though, I've been doing okay up until very recently. Another pause. He shifted his weight, then glanced around. So is this the part where you decide if I'm useful or just decorative? You are neither. Ouch, he said. Straight to the point, I respect it. She stepped closer again, not as abruptly as before, but with the same controlled precision. You resist commands, you speak without permission, you display no awareness of hierarchy. He nodded. That sounds accurate. Why? He hesitated this time, not for effect, because the answer wasn't as simple. Because hierarchy only works if everyone agrees to it, he said finally. And I just got here. The room went very still. That is not how power functions, she said. Maybe not here, he replied. But where I'm from, power's messier. People question it, sometimes loudly, sometimes with signs and bad slogans. Bad slogans? You'd hate them, he assured her. Very inefficient? For a moment, just a moment, something flickered in her expression again, not quite understanding, not quite dismissal. You do not fear me, she said. He opened his mouth, then paused. I didn't say that, he admitted. I just don't think fear is useful right now. It would be, maybe, he said, but it wouldn't change anything. You'd still be you and I'd still be me, just more stressed. The silence that followed wasn't hostile. It wasn't comfortable either. It felt like something in between, something that hadn't decided what it was yet. She moved closer, close enough that he could feel that same precise presence, like standing near a perfectly balanced blade. You should be afraid, she said, quieter now. He met her gaze. You've said a lot of things I should be, he replied. I'm starting to think I'm not very good at should. The air shifted again, but not into pressure. Something lighter, more uncertain. Her hand lifted slightly, not touching him, just there, close enough that he noticed. You are fragile, she said. Extremely, he agreed. It's kind of my defining feature. And yet you stand. Mostly out of habit? Another pause, then unexpectedly he smiled. Also, he added, I'm still waiting on that explanation about your architecture. The walls blink at me. I feel like that's important. Her hand stilled. The walls are not relevant. They're blinking, he insisted. That feels relevant. They are responsive surfaces. To what? A beat. Presence? He nodded slowly. So they're judging me too. They are not, she stopped. He tilted his head. Not what? A longer pause this time. Not designed for judgment, she finished. Ah, he said, but capable of it. Silence, then something unexpected happened. The corner of her mouth shifted, barely. So small it could have been nothing, he blinked. Was that? It was not, she said immediately. Okay, he said, holding up his hands. I didn't see anything, completely imaginary, my mistake. The tension in the room didn't vanish. But it changed, less like a weapon, more like a question. She studied him again, but this time it wasn't just analysis. There was something else there now, something he couldn't quite name. You disrupt, she said. I've been told that, he replied. Usually right before someone asks me to leave. You will remain. He paused. That sounded less like a threat and more like a decision. It is both. He considered that, then nodded slowly. Fair enough. Another silence settled, but it didn't feel as heavy as before. He glanced at her, then at the blinking walls, then back at her. So, he said carefully, while I'm remaining, is there any chance of getting one of those snack things I mentioned? She stared at him. You request sustenance, she said. I do, he confirmed. Preferably the non-lethal kind. A beat. Then she turned slightly, speaking to the armored figures without looking at them. A moment later, one of them left. He watched, then looked back at her. If this turns out to be poison, he said, I just want you to know I'm going to be very disappointed. It will not be poison. Reassuring, he said, mostly. She studied him again, and this time the silence stretched without breaking, not because it had to, but because neither of them seemed in a hurry to end it. The first explosion felt polite. He blinked as the far wall rippled, not shattered, just reconsidered its existence. Okay, he said slowly, looking around. I'm no expert, but I think that's bad. No one corrected him. The floor dipped again, less playful this time, more like it had somewhere urgent to be. He grabbed the edge of the console beside him. You told me this place was stable, he added, glancing at her. I did not, she replied, already moving. Right, he said. You implied it aggressively. The chamber shifted into motion around them. Panels slid, light fractured into new patterns, and the distant hum of the structure deepened into something sharper, more deliberate. They are here, she said. He straightened. Those who believe I am no longer fit to lead. He nodded once. Ah, office politics, universal constant. Another tremor ran through the structure, this one less polite. Somewhere far off, something collapsed with a sound that felt expensive. You should go, she said, not looking at him. He stared at her. That's new. You are not part of this conflict. Pretty sure I became part of it the moment I didn't kneel, he replied. She turned then, her gaze precise, controlled, but there was something under it now, something less certain than before. This is not your war. Maybe not, he said, but I'm already in the building and the building is exploding. Feels like a technicality at this point. Another impact, closer this time. The walls flickered, their steady rhythm breaking into erratic pulses. He looked at them. Your judging walls seem nervous. They are responding to damage. Same thing, he muttered. A sharp tone cut through the air. One of the armored figures stepped forward, speaking in a language he didn't understand, fast and precise. She listened, still as ever, then nodded once. They have breached the outer ring, she said. He exhaled. Outer ring sounds important. It is. Great, he said. Love that for us. She moved toward the exit, and this time she didn't tell him to stay. He followed. The corridors were different now. Not broken, but strained, like the entire structure was under pressure it hadn't expected. Figures moved with urgency, no longer silent observers but active participants in something much larger. He kept close to her. So what's the plan? He asked. There is no plan, she said. He blinked. That feels suboptimal. There is only response. Okay, he said. We can work with that. I'm very good at reacting poorly to situations. Another explosion, closer still. The corridor ahead sealed for a split second, then reopened as if reconsidering. He pointed at it. That seems unsafe. It is adaptive. It's indecisive, he corrected. They reached a junction where the path split into three. She didn't hesitate, choosing one immediately. He followed, then glanced back. You know, in situations like this, I usually suggest hiding. Hiding is not an option. It's always an option, he said. It's just rarely respected. A group of opposing soldiers appeared ahead, their armor distinct, their movements sharper, less restrained. He stopped. Okay, he said. New plan, we hide. She didn't stop. Of course she didn't. He sighed and moved with her. The confrontation was fast, precise, and deeply unfair to the people on the other side. He didn't fully understand what she did, only that the air itself seemed to obey her, bending, tightening, releasing with exacting control. The attackers didn't stand a chance. He watched, then winced slightly. Remind me never to get on your bad side, he said. You already are, she replied. Right, he said. Worse side then. They moved again, deeper into the structure, towards something he couldn't see but could definitely feel like the center of all this chaos. You could end this quickly, he said after a moment. Yes, but you're not. No, he frowned. Why? She didn't answer immediately. For once, the silence felt like it meant something. They expect destruction, she said finally, and I will not give them what they expect. He smiled faintly. That's surprisingly familiar. Another tremor shook the corridor, stronger this time. A section ahead collapsed, forcing them to stop. He stared at it. Okay, he said. Now we hide? She looked at the blocked path, then at him. This way, he added, pointing to a narrow maintenance passage along the side. No one important ever checks these. She hesitated just for a second, then she followed him. He grinned. I knew it. Universal design flaw. The passage was tight, less refined, the systems here exposed in ways the main corridors never were. The hum was louder, more honest. They moved quickly, the chaos of the main structure muted but not gone. "You trust this path," she said. "I trust that people overlook boring things," he replied. "It's a very reliable pattern." They emerged on the other side of the collapse, closer now to the core of whatever was happening. The final confrontation didn't announce itself, it simply was. A figure stood waiting, similar to her but not the same. The difference wasn't in appearance, it was in presence, sharper, colder, more rigid. "You hesitate," the figure said. "I adapt," she replied. "Your adaptation